Welcome to Everlutionary, a podcast about how we can heal and transform with the world. Every episode of my show, we explore conversations around philosophy, science, mysticism, social justice, how we can be change catalysts and activators and mobilize each other to create a world free of violence. I'm your host, Hawah Kasat. Peace, peace, peace. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to our 1-year anniversary. I guess you're not welcoming back to the 1-year anniversary because a 1-year anniversary can only happen once. And I guess this is the one time that this is happening. So here we are. It is episode 27. And that would mean that this is exactly 1 year since I put out my very first podcast episode. Wow. If there was a little bell, I would be hitting it right now, but I don't have a bell. But maybe somebody from my awesome, incredible podcast team will help me with that. And if you are hearing some sounds in the background, y'all, please keep in mind, I am right now recording from my backyard, and there's wind, there are birds, and there is actually a beautiful wind chime over here. So if you're hearing some ambient sounds, it's probably just because I'm outside, but we'll see how all this podcast equipment does. We're testing it. I've been testing it for the past year. I cannot believe it's been a year. My goodness. First of all, thank you for tuning in. And the podcast team I just talked about, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Denise. And thank you, all the other folks over there. I'm just so grateful that you're here with me, supporting me on my journey. 1 year of recording an episode every 2 weeks is not easy. For those that have been listening, and if you've been tuning in regularly, you've probably seen the evolution of the show. You've heard the show change over the past year, episode after episode. I think we've been just getting our groove. We're finding our little pockets, and we're leaning into that. I've been really enjoying myself. And I got to say, I mean, recording a podcast, having a podcast show, this is almost like a part-time job. It is so much work. I would not be able to do what I do right now. You would not be listening to what you're listening to right now without the team that I have that supports me with pre-production and post-production, including often helping me with guest communications and helping me line up the guests that you often hear me talking to in conversation. So all of that's only possible because of the people that have been helping me. And also, of course, all of you just tuning back in. Every episode, it's just been a creative exploration and investigation, which I'm doing because y'all are tapping in and tuning in. So I'm grateful. I'm feeling a lot of things right now. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, 1 year of doing this show, I feel like there's a lot to celebrate and there's a lot to reflect on. And also, I'm in a big transition in my life. I'm in a huge transition in my life. Every now and then I get into me, but not so often. Every now and then, in terms of like the deeper stories of where I am currently, I like to stay kind of high level. You could hear me talking about issues that are important to me and interviewing incredible people that are out in the world doing amazing things. And then I'll always like kind of throw in my little tidbits, but I'm in a huge transition, y'all, in my life. I'm just going to name it. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be honest. I'm in California. First of all, I live in Northern California, but I'm leaving California. Probably by the time you're listening to this episode, I've already moved out of California because I'm recording this episode right now in my backyard. It's one of the last things I do before I start packing up all my podcast equipment. For the past month, I've been boxing and putting things into crates. We've been selling furniture. We have no couch. We have no table anymore. I've got no bar stools to sit at. I've been sitting on the floor for the past 2 weeks, eating food like I used to do in India, just like cross-legged on the floor with a little coffee table. So there's very little left in the house. Sold most of it on Facebook Marketplace. And I'm in a huge transition. I'm leaving Northern California, which finally, after being here for 2 years, I would say the last 4 or 5 months, I've really felt like California has become my home. And I live about an hour from San Francisco and Oakland. It took me a while. The first year and a half, I was kind of just trying to be present and explore as much as I could. But I would say the past 4 or 5 months, I really feel like this is my home. So thank you, Northern California, for welcoming me. If you're listening on YouTube, actually, or watching on YouTube, you can see the redwood trees behind me and the Douglas firs. If you're just listening to the audio, that's all good too. But just wanted to shout out the backdrop on the YouTube for the listeners. I'm in a little town called Sebastopol, about 20 minutes from the Pacific Ocean and Bodega Bay. And I've been here for, like I said, 2 years. However, I won't be here any longer because I'm moving back east, at least for the next 4 to 6 months. And that's all a huge life shift. It's all happening in this moment. As I talk, this huge move, again, cross country. I moved here 2 years ago. Now I'm moving again. And it's all happening quickly. So part of my hope in this episode is to give you all a chance to be with me in this transition because you've been with me through a lot of the other episodes I've recorded and have shared. So here I am, letting y'all know. Why am I leaving California and why did I come here? It comes down to really one single reason. I fell in love and love brought me here. Love absolutely brought me to California. And my dearest, beloved, one of my best friends in the whole world, she and we were friends for about 3 years before we decided we were going to jump into testing the romantic waters of our relationship. Something was shifting. We would hang out and we were friends and it was always platonic. But then something started shifting like in year 3 and we would kind of leave each other. At least for me, like I would leave her after we would hang out and I would be missing her and thinking about her in ways that you normally just don't think about when you're leaving one of your friends and done hanging out with them. And so I started noticing these feelings arising and I wasn't sure if those were real, if that was something to be explored. There was some fear in that because I didn't want to ruin or in any way jeopardize what is a beautiful, incredible friendship. I cherish Alicia. And for those of you that listened to my New Year's episode, Alicia crashed that episode. You can go back and listen to it. I think it's called The Things That You'll Remember. And Alicia walked into the podcast room while I was recording, and we have some nice impromptu moments in that episode. So go back and check out that episode if you want to. It's the first episode in January of this year of 2025. And she is just this incredible human. And just for full disclosure, I talked to her just a couple of nights ago and I said, hey, I'm going to do like this impromptu podcast recording. I want to share with like the tribe and the people listening what I'm going through. Are you cool with me talking about us and where I'm at in my life and what's happening? And she gave me her blessing to share. And the reason is because we love each other. We totally love each other. We're going to be in each other's lives, until we're no longer here on earth. I know that. She knows that. We were dear friends before we decided to test the romantic waters. And we hesitated as well because we didn't want to in any way mess up a friendship. And at the same time, we both felt something really strong and palpable, and we weren't sure exactly what it was. And at that moment, we kind of realized that if we don't jump in and at least explore this a little bit, then we might never know. So we did. We decided to jump into the deep end. Literally, we jumped into the deep end. I mean, we were dating for a few months before she found out she had to come to California. So, mic drop. The reason I'm in California is because she had to come here because she graduated from medical school and this is where she was matched for her residency program. And residency is 3 years. You don't really have that much control over where you have to go for residency. You get kind of matched with a program somewhere in the country. And this is where she got matched. And we knew right then that if we were going to really try to learn how to swim, that we would probably not be able to do this long distance. Neither of us, I think, wanted to do long distance, but also we just didn't see the realization of a deeper partnership if we tried to do it from 3,000 miles away. So I packed up everything and decided to move here with her. And we just jumped in. We literally jumped in. And I guess I want to say to start, like sometimes you just got to do that, right? You just got to follow your heart. You got to do what comes up for you. Sometimes you just got to jump. And we jumped. We jumped and we leaped and we just said, we're not going to know unless we try. And we came here together 2 years ago. We've been dancing and learning and being in partnership for the past 2.5 years. And we realized in January, we realized together through a lot of deep conversations and heartfelt conversations and holding each other, we realized that we're better together as friends than we are as romantic partners, meaning like needing to be in a relationship the way we were. And that was a really hard place to get to. That was a really hard realization to come to. And, for a while, I didn't want to accept that as a truth because I think I felt it deep in my bones, like my soul. When I came here, I really, really saw and felt that this was it. This is the next step in my life. And I saw forever. And it felt so real, and it is so real. But I think we mistook our love and we tried to turn our love into another form of love that perhaps it wasn't really meant to be. And so coming to that realization was work. It was hard, because there was a part of me that didn't want to let go. And we both gave everything we had. We tried so hard, and we just realized this kind of instinctual realization that we can still be in each other's lives. We can still love each other and be the bestest of friends. And at the same time, we can acknowledge and honor the need to kind of like change the way we're dancing. Like if we were salsaing, if that's what you want to call what it means to be married to someone or involved with somebody as like a long-term girlfriend or boyfriend or partner, then we were like switching the dance from salsa to line dancing. Just kind of saying that oftentimes I know people need finality and people need to end things and just like fully separate and fully cut that person off. And there's a need to do that because there was some really perhaps hard things that happened, negative things that happened, a lot of pain that makes it really difficult to still find kindness and compassion. But our whole process was based around and rooted in retaining kindness and compassion for each other, even as we were untethering and reimagining our relationship again. And so I want to hold that. I want to hold that with all of you listening. I want to hold that for me as somebody that was and is in many ways still really sad and grieving. I've been grieving a lot of different things over the past many months. Of course, this has probably been one of the deepest reasons for some of that sadness I've been feeling. And for those of you that know me and kind of have spent more time with me in person, like, that I've got a practice that I lean on. I've got my practices, I've got my sadhana, I have my self-care practices. So I've been leaning really heavy into all of those. And I'm doing now something really new and different. So it's all ironic to me. It's ironic that I'm celebrating 1 year of the podcast. It's like the 1 year anniversary. That it's ironic that this moment was not planned. I did not plan the 1 year anniversary to also be this moment in time when I'm leaving Northern California and moving right now temporarily back east. And also wasn't planning this all to also run parallel with how I'm navigating being in the world again, solo, and just kind of figuring that out. So I'm breathing, I'm taking deep breaths, and I'm sharing all this with you if you're listening, because goodness, if you're going to keep listening to my show and I'm going to keep doing these episodes, then you may as well know where I'm at and what I'm going through, because I think it'll make it more clear as to why I focus on the topics I do in this show. At the moment, I'm in this transition point. As I said, that transition is leading me to becoming probably partly nomadic again for the foreseeable future. That is connected to, interestingly, like before coming to California, I was semi-nomadic. I'm going to back up a little bit to give you a little bit more of an arc of my story in terms of how I got here, but where I was before coming here. I was living in Washington, D.C. until the year 2020. And then 2020 was, of course, a year that we all will never forget as the time that COVID upended the world. And many people ran similar paths that I've been running where COVID kind of set us free. I lived in DC in a big apartment building, and the first 4 or 5 months of COVID, for me to get outside required me to get in an elevator and go down 6 flights on an elevator before I could even go out the front door to get outside. It felt really compressed. Being in a city, there's so many people all around, and we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and it's all brand new. None of us have been here before. We haven't had to deal with this before. And my spirit was really wanting to get out of the city. So in August, I packed up my apartment and moved everything into storage and just basically was rolling around for the next few years with a couple suitcases. Most of my time, I would say every year, was grounded and situated at Roots to Sky Sanctuary, which you'll hear more about in coming episodes. I have not talked a lot about the land project that I've been working on with some friends, but me and some friends in the year 2020, we came into stewardship of 125 acres of land in Western Maryland at the border of West Virginia, about 3 hours from Washington, D.C. And so every year from like 2020, 2021, 2022, those 3.5 years, I would live at Roots to Sky Sanctuary for about 4 or 5 months out of the year. And I'd stay on the land. We're working on creating this regenerative farm. We've been building out these different facilities and event spaces to hold retreats and gatherings. We've hosted many, many gatherings at the sanctuary. And so Roots to Sky became my home base. That's kind of where I was most grounded for those few years during COVID. But then during the winters, I didn't love being in the mountains out there in Appalachia in the winters because it got really cold. And during COVID, I just loved being outside as much as I could. So I would often go to South America or Central America, where I would stay for a few months out of the winter. And then I was teaching a lot. So I was traveling and forking through the country, sometimes in my car, sometimes on a plane, to teach at various places. So that was kind of my life until 2023. And at that point, I was semi-nomadic. And that's when Alicia and I really started to connect on a deeper level of wanting to explore partnership and relationship. That's what brought me to California. We were friends for almost 3 years before we embarked on exploring what it would be like to be romantic partners, to be together in that way. And we didn't have a lot of time, because she found out that she was coming to California about 3.5 or 4 months into us starting to date. So it was all like a very quick turnaround. It was basically, we were starting to explore relationship and partnership. And then she found out she had to come to Northern California to do her residency program. And then we had to make a really quick decision. Do we go long distance or do I just move with her? And at that moment, it just felt like the only thing to do was to jump in and come to California. So being here has been absolutely dreamy. California is one of those places that I never thought I would live. I never thought I would live in California. And it's amazing that love brought me here. But I got to say, I've slowly fallen in love with California. At first, I think I was resistant, mainly because most of my community is on the East Coast, and where we live in California, it's a little bit out of striking distance from San Francisco, where I have some community and friends. So I often felt like I was living on an island out here. And the past 4 or 5 months, I really feel like I've settled. I really feel like this has become my home. I mean, I know all the back roads. I know all the little spots. And it's just been so nice to have a home again. After being nomadic for almost 4 years, it's just been so nice to just have a kitchen And, just so grateful for the little things of being able to have like my little herbs and teas and my little meditation room. The the ability to have normalcy and to have routine and ritual, that I think is like one of the things that I really do miss when I become semi-nomadic. So I want to name that. And also for those listening, if you don't know me really well, I don't have children, and that does create a space where I'm not needing to be tethered to one place as much as if I did have children, what that might require in terms of having them in school and having them in one place for their own sense of creating ritual and normalcy in their lives. So the past month, the past 6 weeks, I've just been boxing everything, crates. We've been selling all the furniture. We've sold the couch and the coffee table. I've like put all my books back into boxes and shipping all that back to the East Coast. This is the last podcast episode I'm going to record before I pack up all my podcast equipment and put that into their bags and boxes. So this podcast is about to go on the road. I don't know exactly what all that means, but I'm about to go on the road and I'm going to keep doing it. It's going to be a little different. I'm not going to have my lights. I'm not going to have all the great audio equipment maybe with me all the time. Might be a little more bootleg here and there, but we'll see what happens. I'm committed to the journey. I'm committed to how far we've come with the show. I got to say that, moving is a lot of energy, and it's been a lot. I think energetically packing everything back up again after 2 years, it does feel exhausting. I've been feeling pretty tired with, there's that unknown. It's like not knowing what's next is probably one thing that feels really exhausting. I think there's a part of me that is deeply grieving and will continue to grieve. I am so grateful that Alicia and I are able to and have so generously and graciously transitioned into a deep friendship. And at the same time, there's a deep sadness, that it didn't work out. And that's real. That doesn't go away. It's still very present with me in my heart. I mean, I'm sad. I'm sad it didn't work out. I really, really wanted this to work. And sometimes in life, I get really committed to things, and people. I'm really loyal. And I think there's the sadness and the heartbreak of knowing that like her and I are not going to be experiencing the moments in the same ways that we used to together, even though we'll still be in each other's lives, but it'll just be different. And there's also like this grieving and sadness I have because I was really ready to settle down. I've been really ready. And I think I've been ready for the past 4 or 5 years. And so it's kind of like that feeling of becoming uprooted again, and just like the deepness of being in relationship and knowing that there's somebody at home there waiting for you and will be home soon, or the way we've been able to share meals and cook for each other and support each other. Just having somebody in your life. And it's something that I think can be taken for granted. So if you're listening and you've got somebody in your life, if you've got people in your life, there's a few things here, I guess, that I'd love to tie up with. One is, if something's not working for you and it's not working, it's probably important not to be in something in terms of a relationship just because you feel like you need to be in the relationship or you feel obligated. It's really important that you take the time to make sure you're receiving and you're moving in the ways that make you feel alive and bring you inspiration. And sometimes we can get trapped or we can feel like we're stuck. And what was really complicated and hard too for Alicia and I is we share so many friends. We share, our families are like each other's families now. so close to her mom and her sister, and vice versa. She's so close to my mom and my sister. And so, like, we actually told some of our family members together. We went ahead and we told some of our friends together that we were going to be separating. And we just decided we wanted to do that because we wanted to hold each other and hold our friends and our community together while we were in this transition. So I know that's not easy for everyone to do, but I just want to put it out there that there's other ways to do things than how we traditionally think things have to be done, right? There's other ways to do things than how we think things have to be done. And I think her and I have created an opportunity to like see two things. One is sometimes you just got to jump, and we jumped. And then two is sometimes you've got to gut check and you got to make a really hard decision that could negate everything else that you were feeling, but is the right decision based upon where you are right now. And those are hard moments, but we're doing a disservice to ourselves if we were to keep trying to fit a circle into a square. You know, if we're trying to fit a round peg into a square hole. And I think just knowing that sometimes we have to make a decision that's going to leave us really ungrounded. And that's part of life and the challenge of being alive and being in relationship with others. So I want to offer that, you know, I want to offer to you, if you're listening, just really honoring the people you're with and not taking it for granted that you have people in your life or someone in your life, a loved one in your life. And if you don't have a loved one in your life, in that way, in a romantic way, like that's also okay, because I think there's some pressure in our world to feel like, oh, we need to have a person. And if I don't have a person, then there's something wrong with me, or like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stay in a relationship? And is it me or is it them? And then we try to do a lot of blaming and we try to cast blame or try to figure out who the problem is. But it's not about there being a problem or that somebody's right or somebody's wrong. It's more about just being in relationship and realizing that sometimes we speak different love languages, and it's not your fault or my fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's just that we have a little bit of a different way that we move in the world. And that might be something that you're in the midst of. I do believe that relationships are a lot of work. I really believe relationships are a lot of work. A podcast is a lot of work. You got to commit. It's sometimes going to require you to do things you don't want to do. I am fully on board with that. But also sometimes, you know how there's friends in your life that you just get along with a little bit easier. There's just a little bit less of a need to communicate certain nuances. They just are able to like pick up and get how you think or how you feel without requiring as much effort. And so I do think too, there's a balance. There's a balance between effort and ease. There's a balance between how hard we have to work. And there's also a need to move where you have some wind at your back. And I think that's the dance of being in relationship, but also being alive and making decisions about work, about how you spend your time or your energy or your money for that matter, right? Like there's a need to also sometimes go in the direction where you have inertia. And if you feel stuck and if you feel stopped, it might be because you're continuing to try to push something up a hill. But instead of trying to go uphill, maybe look for where you got some gradient going downhill, or at least level ground, right? Maybe just like flat ground is what you need right now. So I offer that because I do believe that it is hard work and it requires a lot of effort and compromise. Absolutely. And I also think at some point, it's important to know that, oh, maybe our personalities just aren't meant to be with each other in this way, but they work really well in this other way. And then figuring out what those ways are and having the patience, but also having the open-mindedness and the open-heartedness to go into those conversations and have those conversations with those people, to speak vulnerably about what you need and why you need those things. And growing through that, everything is growth. Like my move to California here has been so much growth for me. I will always be able to come back to this part of California and feel like I'm at home. Wow. I don't have any regrets at all about moving here, about jumping into the ocean and trying to be in the deep end. I have zero regrets. I have sadness and, these sometimes like some feelings of disappointment that it didn't work out because I really wanted it to. But I'm also needing to embrace, for me right now, where I am in my life, I got to embrace that this played an important chapter in a book in my life. And there are many other chapters in my life that are still to be written. And that's what's grounding me as I'm moving through this big transition, as I'm getting ready to board a plane and go back to the East Coast. I'm shipping my car cross country because I'm not going to try to drive cross country. By the time you're listening to this episode, I'm probably already on the East Coast, and I'll probably be working on episode 29 or 30 because I try to record a couple of episodes ahead of time, except for these solo episodes. My solo episodes, I like to record like right before they release. So this is fresh. This is 1 year. This is irony. This is poetry. This is transition. This is change. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're finding the things that are keeping you grounded. I hope you are able to keep developing that ritual, the patterns, the habits you need in your life to navigate all the turbulence, all the unpredictability. There is a lot of unpredictability in the world. I think part of moving and part of becoming uprooted right now for me is like, yeah, there's unpredictability, but there's also a sense of opportunity, right? One of my favorite quotes is by Albert Einstein. He said, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." So I'm going to leave you all with that. Happy 1 year anniversary, not just to me, but to all of you, because this is your show. Feel free to hit me up. Send me some DMs on social media. Let me know what's going on with you. Let me know if there's something you want me to cover, if you want me to talk about a certain topic. If there's a guest out there that you want to recommend for the show, please hit me up. Shoot me an email. There's a contact form on my website. You can find all that in the show notes. And, if you're willing and able, this is a perfect time. This is the 1 year anniversary. If you're down, it would mean the world to me if you became a subscriber on my Substack page. If you committed financially to this show, it would really help to make this more sustainable for me. It's so easy. Just go to my Substack page, hit subscribe. It's like $5 a month or $60 for the year. You can choose whichever one you want, but those little things will help me continue to dedicate more and more time to this show, to Everlutionary, the podcast. Thanks for listening, y'all. Hope you're well. Be safe, be in love, stay in love. Peace. Everlutionary, transforming and healing the world, is brought to you by me, Hawah Kasat. If you would like to find out more about my story, head to hawahkasat.com and visit social media, where I'm active on Instagram, Substack, LinkedIn, TikTok, and Facebook. Be sure to share this podcast with a friend, and to make sure you don't miss any future episodes, hit that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thank you for listening. Stay in touch. Peace.